Today is May 12th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It's a thrill, honor, and joy to be here today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today, out of the Big Book, we're going to be reading from We Agnostics, Chapter 4, pages 54 and 55. And out of the Personal Stories, we're going to be reading A Drunk Like You, pages 398 through 400. And finally, out of the 12 and 12, we're going to continue our journey through tradition number 3 by reading the bottom of page 140 to the top of 141. So with all that, I hope you all are doing well this morning. Life is good over here. Got a big old cup of coffee and a smile on my face because you know what? We've been given a brand new set of 24 hours. The day is wide open. So let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. All right, in yesterday's reading out of the chapter We Agnostics, we were talking a little bit about having faith in our reasoning. And also, of course, this chapter, big idea is having that open mind to be open to spiritual ideas and the spiritual kind of inspiration behind all of these steps. So let's go ahead and get to page 54. Again, we're reading 54 and 55. We found too that we had been worshippers. What a state of mental gooseflesh that used to bring on. Had we not variously worshipped people, sentiment, things, money, and ourselves? And then, with a better motive, had we not worshipfully beheld the sunset, the sea, or a flower? Who of us had not loved something or somebody? How much of these feelings, these loves, these worships, have to do with pure reason? Little or nothing, we saw at last. Were not these things the tissue of which our lives were constructed? Did not these feelings, after all, determine the course of our existence? It was impossible to say that we had no capacity for faith, or love, or worship. In one form or another, we had been living by faith and little else. Imagine life without faith. Were nothing left but pure reason, it wouldn't be life. But we believed in life. Of course we did. We cannot prove life in the sense that you can prove a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points, yet there it was. Could we still say the whole thing was nothing but a mass of electrons created out of nothing, meaning nothing, whirling on a destiny to nothingness? Of course we couldn't. The electrons themselves seemed more intelligent than that. At least, so the chemist said. Hence we saw that reason isn't everything. Neither is reason, as most of us use it, entirely dependable, though it emanate from our best minds. What about people who prove that man could never fly? Yet we have been seeing another kind of flight, a spiritual liberation from this world. People who rose above their problems. They said God made these things possible, and we only smiled. We'd seen a spiritual release, but like to tell ourselves it wasn't true. Actually, we were fooling ourselves. For deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by calamity, by pomp, by worship of other things, but in some form or other, it is there. For faith in a power greater than ourselves, and miraculous demonstrations of that power in human lives, are facts as old as man himself. We finally saw that faith in some kind of God was a part of our makeup, just as much as the feeling that we have for a friend. Sometimes we had to search fearlessly, but he was there. He was as much a fact as we were. We found the great reality deep down within us. In the last analysis, it is only there that he may be found. It was so with us. We can only clear the ground a bit. If our testimony helps sweep away any prejudice, enables you to think honestly, encourages you to search diligently within yourself, then if you wish, you can join us on the broad highway. With this attitude, you cannot fail. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. In this book, you will read the experience of a man who thought he was an atheist. His story is so interesting that some of it should be told now. His change of heart was dramatic, convincing, and moving. And we will get to the story of this young man a little bit later. This will be tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. All right, so now we are on the personal stories part 2. They stopped in time. This is story number 15, A Drunk Like You. We're going to be reading pages 398 through 400. The more he listened at meetings, the more he came to know about his own drinking history. Usually our stories start out by telling what we were like, what happened, and what we are like now. For me, what it was like was nothing in particular. No problems, nothing special happened. Nothing that I realized anyhow. Only much later when I started listening to other people and what happened to them, when and how, did I realize that those things were in my past also. My story starts in the middle. What happened? My family and I were attending a relative's bris, a Jewish ritual circumcision and a baby naming ceremony. After the ceremonies and brunch, I fell asleep. When it was time to leave, they woke me up. The car ride home was very quiet. The wife and my 2 kids said nothing. Later that day, I found out what the problem was. When they came to wake me, I was very belligerent and threatening. I scared them. They were afraid that I'd hit them. That was it. I could see that something had to be done. My wife's sister-in-law, who is a social worker, suggested that we see a counselor. I thought that might be a good idea. I was having anxiety attacks for no reason. I used to be able to demonstrate products to high-level executives of the corporation I worked for with no problem. Now, even minor product showcases were becoming difficult. Also, I was having trouble getting technicians to work for me. In the past, I had had my pick because I was good to work for, and the projects were fun, with interesting new ideas. I always had a quick temper, but now things were getting out of hand. I would do things like beat up my desk with my desk chair. And the most serious thing to me was that I was contemplating suicide. I had an actual plan. A plan for an accident that would raise no question in the minds of the insurance company. So in a moment of sanity, I decided it'd be a good idea to seek help. If I hadn't lost my marbles, they were at least very loose. So my wife and I found a psychiatric social worker at the local Jewish Family Services Agency. She saw us as a couple, then individually, then together, and so it went. When we were together, we worked on our interpersonal problems. When I saw her by myself, she would talk about drinking. I don't know why she kept bringing it up. I drank, but not that much. I never even mentioned my drinking except maybe say, "Yeah, I do drink," when she asked. It wasn't the problem. The other things were. One day she read me some questions from a pamphlet, which I answered honestly. She concluded that maybe I drank too much, and we talked about that for several sessions. One day she asked if I could limit myself to 5 drinks in a day. I said sure. Was I surprised when I found out that I couldn't? That should have been my first clue that she might be right, but it didn't occur to me. Then I hit on a clever solution. I have several academic degrees, and someone as smart as I was could solve the problem. The idea was to put off the first drink as long as possible and go to bed after the last drink. That worked out okay, and I told the counselor that I was able to keep it to 5 a day with little or no problem. But she said if you have to control something, it was out of control. During one session, she suggested that I try not drinking at all one weekend. Okay, I said. She also suggested that I send the kids off somewhere for the weekend because I might be irritable. I used to watch a lot of late-night movies. It was my time to relax by having a few drinks. A habit that started in night school when I had a full-time job and was studying chemistry at night. I had seen movie versions of what happened to people who had drinking problems. The Lost Weekend, Days of Wine and Roses, and others. And so I was nervous about raging, losing control, and maybe being violent as my wife had said that I was. So we packed up the kids and the booze, all of it, and took all to my wife's parents. Much to my surprise, the weekend went well. No problems. And the next session, I told my counselor so. She said, "What about the meeting?" I said, "What meeting?" She said, "The AA meeting." I said, "What AA meeting? We never talked about that." She said that I had agreed to go to an AA meeting. So out came a meeting list. She explained about open and closed meetings. I decided on one that I thought that would be okay for me, a men's discussion group. They would be my kind of people, and the time fit into my schedule. The meeting list started on Sunday. I never started a project or anything else on Sunday. Monday was my MASH night. Tuesday was my Tuesday night at the movies. And I'm a big old movie fan. So Wednesday is when I decided to try this AA thing. Alright, some good stuff here. Can't wait to come back to this in a minute. And finally, we are in tradition number 3 of the 12 and 12, which reads, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. And in the last 2 days, we were talking about the early days of AA and how there were so many different rules. If you mentioned drug use, or they were, as it says here, beggars and tramps, asylum inmates, prisoners, queers, plain crackpots, fallen women, they were all out, couldn't be in the AA meetings. And yesterday we read that a lot of this was based on fear. We were grim because we felt that our lives and homes were threatened, and that was no laughing matter. Intolerant, you say? Well, we were frightened. And then the final line yesterday, after all, isn't fear the true basis of intolerance? Yes, we were intolerant. So we are going to read the next paragraph again on the bottom of page 140 to the top of 141. How could we then guess that all those fears were to prove groundless? How could we see that thousands of these sometimes frightening people were to make astonishing recoveries and become our greatest workers and intimate friends? Was it credible that AA was to have a divorce rate far lower than average? Could we then foresee the troublesome people were to become our principal teachers of patience and tolerance? Could any then imagine a society which would include every conceivable kind of character and cut across every barrier of race, creed, politics, and language with ease? Why did AA finally drop all its membership regulations? Why did we leave it to each newcomer to decide himself whether he was an alcoholic and whether he should join us? Why did we dare to say, contrary to the experience of society and government everywhere, that we would neither punish nor deprive any AA membership, that we must never compel anyone to pay anything, believe anything, or conform to anything? The answer, now seen in tradition 3, was simplicity itself. At last, experience taught us that to take away any alcoholic's full chance was sometimes to pronounce his death sentence, and often to condemn him to endless misery. Who dared to be judge, jury, and executioner of his own sick brother? Okay, so I read an extra paragraph there, free of charge, but I just wanted to get to the answer. I saw it there, and I was like, man, I'm going for it. But yeah, I know for me, I certainly would never want to be responsible for denying somebody AA. For me, that's like denying somebody to going to church. You know, it's a hospital, right, for sick people. Well, truth be told, I'm still sick. I'm still an alcoholic. I'll always be an alcoholic. Who am I to say you can't go? I couldn't live with myself because I think about how I was when I first walked in. I was already really self-centered in a negative way and had low self-esteem, and I was sick. I was throwing my marriage away and everything. If someone were to deny me, even if it was just one meeting where I was denied, I probably would have never gone back. I probably once again would have used that as another excuse to keep drinking. And if I kept drinking, who knows where I'd be, or if I'd even be here anymore. So, again, this last line, who dared to be judge, jury, and executioner of his own sick brother? No, thank you. And out of We Agnostics, I love this paragraph right here. We can only clear the ground a bit if our testimony helps sweep away prejudice. There it is again. It's been mentioned a lot in this chapter. Enables you to think honestly. So be honest with ourselves. And encourage you to search diligently within yourself. then if you wish, so again, it's a choice, you can join us on the broad highway, not the narrow, exclusive highway, the broad highway. With this attitude, you cannot fail. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you. With an open mind. That's what this chapter has been all about. It's right there in front of us. We're going to cut our ideas off of any spiritual beliefs when we see a room full of sober people? Or are we going to go, you know what? I don't quite understand all this. I don't need to quite figure all this out. But I see obviously that it's working for other people. So I'll give it a shot. I think that's what this chapter is really talking about. And finally, our friend here, in quite a state of denial. And we see that the alcohol has really exacerbated a lot of his anger. I mean, he's blacking out, doesn't even remember some of the things he's doing. And I think the psychiatrist might have a suspicion he might have a problem with alcohol. And I have to give the psychiatrist a lot of credit. He or she really doesn't spell it out. They just ask questions, that to kind of get the narrator to really think, okay, try controlling your drinking. And he's got some successes with it. He's like, I can do it if I do it this way. All right. And then he says, all right, well, how was the meeting? And once again, our narrator, he's like, wait, what? I don't remember agreeing to that, but apparently he did. And I've got a gut feeling once he hits the fellowship and he starts to hear the similarities, if he has an open mind, I think he's going to see that maybe, just maybe, he's one of us. But my friends, that's all we have for today. If you are sober today, please know from the bottom of my heart that you are a miracle. You're a miracle. If you've been sober for a little while, just maybe you're here for a reason. And I heard this from some old timers before, you can't keep it unless you give it away. We can carry the message of sobriety, the message of hope, the message of gratitude that we have thanks to our higher power. We can carry that with us throughout this day that we've been given. Loving our higher power and loving and serving each other. Again, this is just Robology. I don't speak up on behalf of AA or NA or any other sect or denomination. I am just a guy, but I believe that I'm here for a reason. I've been given a second chance. I believe that I've been bought with a price and with a heart of immense gratitude. I want to just help somebody else today, serve somebody else, and thank my higher power while doing it. Because somebody else helped me. I'm just paying it forward. So finally, if you ever want to reach out to us, share your experience of strength and hope, there's a couple ways you can do it. We have a service where you can call in. Now, we haven't gotten a phone call yet, but I'm sure you all get tired of hearing from me, so I'd love to hear from somebody else's story that I would be happy to air on the show. It's speakpipe.com/bigbookdaily. You can call in there. And leave a message, or you can just send us an email at bigbookdaily@gmail.com. I'd be happy to share your experience, strength, and hope on the show. It would inspire me too. So I'm just throwing that out there. I know there's some folks listening around the world. Not many, but hey, I'm tickled I can help one out there, even if it's just me. But again, if you want to share your experience, strength, and hope, there's an outlet for you to do it. This isn't a me story. This is a we story. So again, thank you all so much for listening, and if we are given another set of 24 hours, I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.